Welcome back to Unscripted Liberty. Today we're tackling a subject that's been stirring some buzz in the liberty movement, Project Liberal. This initiative, led by people like Tommy Creuzer, aim to build a coalition within the liberty movement. But here's the twist. Some of its prominent members have supported mainstream politicians like Kamala Harris. Now, I get it. Some libertarians have backed Trump too, but let's be honest, neither Trump nor Harris has a stellar record on individual freedoms. So is Project Liberal a real step forward, or are we risking something here? Today, we are joined by Tommy Creuzer to talk about Project Liberal's mission, its challenges, and how it plans to build bridges without compromising core principles. So let's dive in. Tommy, thank you for coming on the show. Can we start with the basics? What is Project Liberal, and what are you guys hoping to achieve with this coalition?
Okay, well, the main goal of Project Liberal is sort of to unite the various strands of liberalism. That would include classical liberalism, neoliberalism, or even liberal libertarians. The goal that we want is sort of to create this coalition to be a sort of opposite of what's currently the sort of populist rise that we've been seeing, which includes people like Trump and Bernie Sanders.
Okay, so Project Liberal has been pretty ambitious in its goals, which is refreshing in a movement that sometimes feels fragmented. What are the main areas of impact you guys hope to have within the liberty space? And how do you see Project Liberal lifting up other liberty groups?
Okay, one of the big things we've been working on is the scorecard. What we intend to do is to basically rank everyone in the federal government on their liberal principles, which means stuff like freedom of speech, their how well they advocate democracy, and combine that with their policy proposals to allow people to look at a glance at their local politicians and to see how they're doing. And we also intend to create lots of educational material.
It's definitely great educational material. It's so important that we need to educate everybody just in general, because knowledge is power, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult job because we're going to have to unite a lot of various strands of liberalism, but we hope to reclaim the word and to use it to push liberty.
Yeah, so coalition building always sounds great, but it can be really tricky in practice to get it to work appropriately. Project Liberal has some prominent members who've supported politicians like Kamala Harris. Now, I get some like I said before, we have had libertarians vote for Trump, we've had them vote for Harris as well. But how neither of them have had like a great track record that makes it easy for a large majority of libertarians to get behind either of them. Doesn't bringing in people with backgrounds like Harris or Trump, or those that tend to lean towards those groups, risk diluting the message that we're trying to promote in liberty?
A big thing is that there have always been people that have sort of voted more pragmatically. A big change that we want to do with Project Liberal is also to push stuff like democratic reform, like ranked choice voting. And that would make it so that we don't have to deal with the issue of feeling like they have to vote for the lesser evil. Because that was a lot of the case for Joshua's support of Harris, is that Trump is so dangerously authoritarian that even someone like Harris is vastly superior. Hopefully with this coalition, we can also help push democratic reform, so we won't have to do this in the future.
So how do you reassure libertarians that Project Liberal isn't just bringing people in who don't truly value liberty?
The way we do this is just to be very transparent about our values. On our site, we tried to make that very clear, but we also intend to have a sort of manifesto that lays this out far more intellectually, if you get what I mean, rather than sort of the sort of eclectic feeling that probably some people may have right now. Hopefully we can formalize the sort of branding and all that very soon.
So how does Project Liberal plan to stand out compared to some of these like other initiatives out there that claim to be pro-liberty?
The big difference right now is that we want to be party neutral. A big thing about a lot of sort of liberty adjacent organizations is that a lot of them end up having a very strong partisan lean, either leaning towards the Republicans, Democrats, or LP. Project Liberal intends to be fully neutral on that, and wants to judge people just on liberal values. To name a Republican that would really fit into Project Liberal, think of someone like Justin Amash.
Okay. So what's your vision for Project Liberal's role in bringing about concrete policy change?
A big thing is to sort of get the various strands of liberalism to just talk to each other more and want to work with each other more and to sort of build a common liberal identity.
Okay. Is there any line that like Project Liberal has like drawn in the sand when it comes to those who can join based on past political affiliations?
We haven't drawn an exact line yet. Like, I mean, Joe Walsh, who, let me, bring him up. Yeah, Joe Walsh. He was formerly a massive Trump supporter, and it's part of the Tea Party movement. And we've been working with him a lot, especially like Joshua. I haven't been working too much with him personally, but yeah, we welcome anyone that wants to embrace the sort of liberal values that we espouse. We don't believe that someone is sort of eternally damned, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you still support like authoritarianism, I want to make that clear that we don't support that. But
so one thing Project Liberal has been praised for is its openness and inclusivity, like you just said. In a movement that can sometimes feel exclusive, it is really like refreshing to see. How do you guys? I think you kind of touched on this a little. Like, how do you guys foster inclusivity without compromising on your core liberty principles?
I have sort of touched on this and sort of having our values very clear. Though it's more about having the right values, not the exact policy. A big sort of issue in sort of the libertarian movements is about having your exact same opinion. In Project Liberal, it's definitely not the case. People like Micah Irfan probably have very different policy proposals than someone like me. But we have a very strong amount of shared values that we can work together on. And that allows us to really be a lot more cohesive.
So you guys are basically kind of taking it of what you guys are uniting under what you agree on and basically agreeing to disagree on things you guys kind of find as could be possibly polarizing.
Yeah, various different people in Project Liberal have very different party affiliations and exact policy. Micah, for example, is like basically has been working with the Democrats a lot in Texas. Well, I've been working a lot with other libertarians, and we could still both be together in Project Liberal. It's not a all or nothing thing. Okay. There's also one like Thomas, who's working in the Republican Party.
Yeah. So let's address some of the criticisms that are out there. The Mises Caucus has been very vocal, with some members seeing Project Liberal as an attack on the Libertarian Party itself. Now, I've seen the posts from people like Joshua and that some say can undermine the Libertarian Party's message. What do you say to critics who view Project Liberal as a threat to the party or to libertarianism as a whole?
The big thing I would say is one thing, chill out, please. He doesn't hold that much influence, but I would also just say that he it's not about like agreeing on every single issue, and as well as Project Liberal's trying to be party neutral. So different people in the sort of Project Liberal have different opinions on stuff like the LP. So,
Okay.
like for example, I voted for Chase. I'm going to be very transparent about that. I did not vote for Harris, and I do not approve of basically most of our policy. So it's going to be sort of different.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys are pretty similar mindset as the Forward Party.
To some degree, probably one of the big differences is that we definitely have a lot more lines when it comes to values. The big thing about the Forward Party is that their main sort of deal is just democratic reform. Beyond that, they don't have any sort of policy proposals, and because even though they're technically a party, they didn't really run a lot of people. A lot of it was endorsing just Republicans and Democrats, which is kind of an issue for a party that wants to grow. It doesn't really have a strong identity. You can also see that in the Discord server, because despite it having way more people than I think Project Liberal does, it's just dead. No one talks there. It has no culture, no unity. Project Liberal intends to be very unifying.
So you guys are basically going at a liberty movement from two different avenues, is basically what you're saying.
Yes, we do intend for liberty sort of be pushed in multiple avenues.
Okay. So how would you respond? I said some people who believe Project Liberal was created specifically to weaken the Libertarian Party.
I mean, I don't think it'd work because many of us are part of the LP and I've worked with it in the past. But I'd also mention, I would sort of just mention like how neutral it is and what its intentions actually are, because if it was meant to attack the LP, we would be attacking them right now a lot. But no, that's not the intention of our organization at all.
Do you think it's fair for Mises Caucus members to feel wary about Project Liberal, given some of the posts and rhetoric from prominent members?
I understand being a little apprehensive because obviously there's a lot of bad blood in 2022, and although I missed most of that due to getting into that sort of stuff in more 2024. That's something that's going to take time to heal. But I would say just look at the values that we espouse, stuff like natural rights and freedom of speech, and allowing for market growth and innovation. And you'll see there's a lot of overlap there.
Okay. So it like and stuff like that. Like I guess it's tough when you see different Mises members like Michael Heiss, Jeff Douglas, Angela McArdle, like big names from the libertarian side, butting heads with prominent big names in Project Liberal. I guess it's just really it's kind of disheartening at sometimes seeing that these groups can't get together and just agree to disagree or agree to just work together on where they find a common line.
Yeah, that kind of stuff will probably just take time. There's a lot of bad blood from 2022, 2024, and that's not really what we want Project Liberal to focus on. We want it to look towards the future.
Yeah, you guys, with bringing together people from all sides of the political spectrum, it's challenging. It's no small feat. So you've got libertarians, disillusioned Democrats, former Republicans. It's just basically a mixed bag of everybody. What's been the biggest challenge so far, keeping everyone on the same page, like goal oriented? Like, how do you plan to maintain and keep that balance of cooperation and basic respect, I guess?
A lot of that's gonna come down to being very clear about our values and making sure that although we may not agree on an exact policy, that those as I keep coming back to, that sort of value overlap is really what will help us. I mean, look at our steering committee, and it has sort of a hodgepodge when it comes to stuff like former party affiliation, current party affiliation, and all that, and voting record, all that sort of stuff.
So, like, how do you guys handle disagreements within Project Liberal? Like, especially when you're dealing with so many varied backgrounds politically.
I mean, the big we do talk it out a lot. We try to make sure that everyone's listened to. We make sure to give feedback to each other on social media, because that's the big thing of the steering committee, is to sort of do stuff like this and get all that feedback. And with that feedback, we're able to sort of build our messaging. Like, if I think there's a tweet that may not resonate well, or I look at feedback and I'm able to sort of bring that back and use that to improve the org.
Are there any specific values or principles that Project Liberal really enforces to keep everyone unified?
I mean, there are definitely some parts that we really want to continuously go for, like the abundance agenda, which is allowing market innovation to really make it so that we're actually able to afford the necessities again, or going hard on stuff like civil liberties, which means natural rights.
Okay, let's talk about some positive achievements here. Every new movement has growing pains, but it also gets some wins. What are some of the key successes or milestones Project Liberal has hit so far?
A lot of it's on messaging. We've been able to get a fair number of impressions on a lot of social media for that message, and it was kind of one that we never even knew would. We weren't sure how it'd take off, because although we do believe that there's going to be a realignment and that will be liberals versus authoritarians, we weren't sure if that was going to resonate, and we think with a lot of the sort of stuff we've been able to put out that it will. It'll just take time to sort of build up.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to happen overnight. But can you share some of the stories of how Project Liberal has impacted local communities or supported the liberty message?
It's been a little hard to get the exact local wins, because a large thing is that there are a lot of internal changes that are happening right now in Project Liberal, and a big reason why we didn't do more in 2024 is because we were kind of waiting on those internal changes. Like, we would have had the scorecard ready before the election if they were done quicker, but we're now gearing up for 2026, and that'll be when we have a lot of the scorecards and stuff like candidates and stuff.
Okay. How have some of the early successes shaped your vision for the coalition moving forward?
Probably a lot of the things is that there have been times where I was worried that that wouldn't last, and that the rift between sort of modern liberals and classical liberals, that would be one that can't be bridged. It's just been a little too long. But I think that more recently that's not the case, and it's definitely a bridge that can be built. It's just in construction, and there are times where you can sort of get across that bridge. You know?
Yeah. So looking ahead in the future, what does the future of Project Liberal look like? Like, big picture. What are some of the key policy goals or long-term initiatives that you guys hope to achieve? And like, where do you see Project Liberal's place in the liberty movement, like 5 to 10 years from now? Like, I know you guys are planning for 2 years from now. Like, where's the 5 and 10-year goals sitting?
Well, the 5 and 10-year goals would likely just to be to build a cohesive liberal movement that is able to actually rival the sort of populists on the left and right that will likely converge eventually in like the next 5 years. And you have to beat sort of the authoritarians with ideas. And without a sort of cohesive liberal movement, it likely won't be able to we likely won't be able to stand against the populists.
Okay. Are there specific issues that you're excited to tackle that you feel don't get enough attention in mainstream liberty discussions?
Probably the big one would be housing reform. Stuff like zoning laws is one that, if it's kind of strange that libertarians don't talk about it more, but the way zoning is now, it's a massive violation of property rights. Basically having it so that people are voting basically on if you can use your property the way you want. And it's also the reason why housing is so expensive.
Yeah. How will Project Liberal continue to evolve as the liberty movement itself grows and changes over time?
It's hard to foresee what exactly, because we're right now in a very uncertain time with sort of the Libertarian Party, at least, which is a lot of the angle I've been trying to take right now. But we do hope to be a bastion for those values, no matter what happens. If the LP implodes, the LP explodes in popularity, we hope to be there for that coalition, for a coalition building, and to allow liberty to flourish.
Okay. Now, some critics believe Project Liberal is trying to cozy up to mainstream political circles, especially with certain endorsements and associations. How are you or others in Project Liberal more interested in gaining social or political capital than actually promoting liberty? It seems like some members kind of have a foot in both worlds. Like, how would you justify that?
A lot of that has to do with the sort of coalition building, and that's just kind of how it is with the current system, because I forget what the law's name, but basically the law basically states that it's basically impossible for a third party to win. So we do need to reach out and get outside of sort of just the normal libertarian or even liberal party space. But we do really hope that we do want to make sure that any sort of endorsements or alliances are made with sort of liberal values in mind first and foremost, and preserving them for the future.
Okay. Would you be willing to distance Project Liberal from anyone who's publicly aligned with big government politicians? Or like where would you guys like I said, draw the line?
We're currently, that's why we're working on the scorecard, because that will allow us to sort of, in a more objective rating, rate people who do align and people that don't align. Currently, we're looking at using an AI for the modeling, and have that done with human oversight to avoid obvious like bias and stuff like that. And with that, we'll really be able to self-sort who aligns with us and who doesn't, because if someone looks like they align with us but they're like against freedom of speech, we obviously want to distance ourselves whenever possible from that. Or someone that looks like they have good civil liberties but they're basically a socialist in the chair, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, if the ultimate goal is about advancing liberty, why not just stick exclusively with libertarian aligned candidates and political figures?
The issue currently is that one major one is a lack of democratic reform. Without democratic reform, it becomes way harder for any sort of libertarian to win and to make a positive change. There's also the fact that there are people that are aligned with liberty that aren't in the Libertarian Party. We have people like Justin Amash that I've mentioned before. We have Jared Polis, who has had a fair bit of liberty leaning in his economics, and you'll generally find that there are people with the liberty leanings in the Democrat and Republican parties, and we want to align with them too. That's incredibly important.
Okay. Now, let's address some of the contradictions that have become kind of apparent with looking into things. Project Liberal claims to support liberty and freedom, yet some of the members have backed restrictive policies or politicians. Can you explain how Project Liberal can maintain its commitment to liberty while still having members who support pretty anti-liberty figures?
The big thing for of course, it'll be a little hard for me because I'm doing a lot of LP work, so and I don't want to badmouth anyone there. But the thing is that for a lot of these races, the support for, say, Harris is about stopping Trump. It's not about that we love Harris and all of her policies. Obviously, beyond any sort of character issue with Harris, we have policy issues, and we're going to be very on the forefront with that. But it's about doing like the best action with what we have, not what we wish we had.
Okay. How do you respond to critics who say Project Liberal is hypocritical for including people who've supported anti-liberty measures? Like, doesn't that kind of hurt your guys' message?
It's obviously tough because no one will be perfect, obviously, on liberty, but we hope that people can be redeemed. We hope that we can. Can you repeat the question just to make sure getting everything?
How would you respond to critics who say Project Liberal's hypocritical for including people who have supported anti-liberty measures? And is that hurting your guys' message overall?
The big thing is that we do want people to redeem themselves, obviously, if they've done something that we would consider anti-liberty. But we'd also want to say that it's not about having an exact policy that's liberal, because if it was just about pure sort of purity spiral, we really won't end up getting anywhere. It's about having the right values. And although you may not end up at the same conclusion, we're able to both agree that it's like sort of in the Overton window, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. So if someone's willing to back candidates who don't align with liberty principles, how can we trust they won't compromise on other issues in the coalition?
It's tough because obviously we don't we would love to support like the sort of most perfect classical liberals, and in all cases, but there's the issue that we have to deal with the cards that we have, not the cards we wish we had. And that's kind of something I'm gonna have to go back to a lot, because it's kind of an issue when you sort of get out of sort of the LP space. Mm-hmm. Is that you have to really pick your battles sometimes. But we do want stuff like freedom of speech to be like non-negotiable. We're not going to negotiate on your rights in that way.
All right. Now, some people have accused Project Liberal of being a politically opportunistic movement that's less about liberty and more about gaining influence, whether it can or wherever it can. They're saying Project Liberal is just a convenient vehicle for people who couldn't make it in mainstream politics and are now looking for the co-op of the liberty movement. Like, how do you respond to accusations like this?
Of course, we're going to have a sort of eclectic mix of people, but there's going but just like sort of accusing someone of being sort of an opportunist because they're part of Project Liberal, I usually don't think is fair, because I've worked with all these people and all of them are committed to creating this coalition and sort of making it work, even if it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to agree on 100%. The big thing, we want to build that sort of liberal identity all together.
Hey, what would you say to the critics who feel that Project Liberal's true motivation is to build a power base rather than uphold liberty values?
I'll just say there's some internal stuff that if we wanted to simply just grab donors and get all their money, if you get what I mean, mm-hmm. there would be some changes that we could make to do that, and we've chosen not to. I can't go into detail on that, but if we had changed if we had messaged in this kind of different way and just wanted pure donor money, I hope that I don't reveal too much, but yeah, if we just wanted pure donor money, there's some things that we could change and that would get a lot of donor money, and we chose not to.
Okay. Do you think the involvement of former mainstream political operatives within Project Liberal feeds this perception of opportunism?
It's tough because there will be people that are sort of in a lot of the people in Project Liberal are sort of former something, but what we want to do is sort of build something new, and I'm losing my train of thought, but it won't. A lot of Project Liberal is not about sort of re-grabbing some political power that you lost in the past. It's about building something new for the future.
Okay. Now, let's talk about compromise, because that's where a lot of people get uncomfortable. Some critics are concerned that Project Liberal is willing to compromise on core liberty principles to bring in people from across the political spectrum. Is there a risk of selling out for the sake of coalition building? How do you guys avoid that?
Yeah, that's a risk whenever you're building a coalition. Whenever you're building a coalition, there's always the risk of it going south and everything going bad. I know that I'll use the example of Germany. Germany is currently the coalition is between the sort of center-right, almost slightly libertarian aligned FDP, the Green Party, and the SPD. And that sort of coalition is going to be very tough. You're basically telling it'd be like if we had the Libertarian, Greens, and Democrats in a coalition. Though maybe the Libertarians are a little more moderate, but somewhere like a Gary Johnson. But the sort of coalition building is something we have to do, and it's very important. It's very important that what we coalition on is within our values, and it's not about just getting power for the sake of power, because if we get power, but it's only the power to do authoritarian stuff, it probably won't really help us.
All right. Now, if you kind of said it before that there seems almost to be a couple lines that Project Liberal won't cross in terms of compromise. And you said one of them was freedom of speech. I think the other one was civil liberties. Are there any others that you guys just are no, we're holding firm on these?
Yeah, there are probably a few issues. One is stuff like science is real. Ideas like markets are a good thing, and that we don't want excessive economic controls that end up stifling innovation. We also really want to hammer home that we are a tolerant coalition that wants to oppose bigotry wherever it is.
Now, if there's members of Project Liberal that start advocating for policies that pretty much contradict libertarian values, how will Project Liberal address that without alienating new members?
Well, I will say that because we're a coalition, we have to be important. We have to sort of make a difference between sort of the libertarian movement and the sort of liberal movement that we want to build. The sort of thing that's kind of torn apart the liberty movement is that it's a lot of it's been about having the exact, as I've tried to hammer home, is that a lot of it's about having the exact same opinion, a lot of the same issues. Well, Project Liberal, which the big difference that we want it to be about the values, not the exact policy. So there probably will be some times where someone like Micah will say a policy that won't be agreeable to libertarians. He currently believes in a carbon tax for corporations, and that to be a way to stop climate change. Obviously, that's not ideal for a libertarian, but it is definitely a step in the right direction, because we don't want people to pollute stuff and to cause property damage to others. Although it's not a perfect solution, a perfect sort of quote unquote perfect liberty solution, you could argue would be something like tort law. it is definitely a step in the right direction, and it is a liberal step that we can take together.
True. Now, another issue is transparency that a lot of critics bring this up. There's this perception out there that Project Liberal kind of operates in a bit of like a gray area. People aren't quite sure about its inner workings, where its funding comes from, or even some of its like true motivations and stuff like that. Like, are you guys being as transparent as you guys say you are? If so, why do so many people feel like Project Liberal's hiding something?
A lot of that probably has to do with a lot of the stuff we do is on our Discord server, and most people aren't going to join Discord. That's just how it is. That's been something we're trying to work on to deal with, because we're kind of split internally, and a lot of our volunteering stuff is on Discord. That's a big barrier for a lot of people. If you join the Discord and become a volunteer, it'll be a lot more apparent how it operates, or become a member. A big thing is that a lot of we don't really have our meetings public right now, but we do hope that we are trying to write as many blog posts and that kind of stuff to make it so that you will know what we're doing and you'll know what we stand for. That's also why we're writing the sort of manifesto for liberty and liberal values.
All right, so those are some of the ways that you guys plan to increase transparency and address some of the concerns. But is there anything else that you guys have in the works to kind of like pull back the curtain on your guys' operations?
We probably will be writing a lot more stuff on talking about our opinions on current events, and I mean, I would be on Twitter as like sort of myself, but that kind of place is not really where I want to be right now. But the big thing it probably will mainly be like the blog posts that we post about either certain issues or sort of what we're doing in our organization. We have a big update coming up, but I can't really share a lot about it right now. But
all right. Now, this definitely has been a pretty enlightening conversation here. Whether people agree or not, it's pretty clear that Project Liberal is bringing something new into the mix, and new things sometimes tend to scare people a little bit. For everyone who's listening and who's skeptical or curious, what's your message to them? How do you kind of take the ones that are teetering on the fence and have them kind of make a decision?
Probably the biggest thing is look at our website, look at the values that we're standing for. And if you feel like you align with those values, then just come talk to us. Our Discord server is public. You can talk to us basically whenever and just ask us questions. We have a whole channel of Ask Project Liberal. And that's basically always for anyone that wants to know more about our organization and what we do. We don't want to have everything sort of like behind the back rooms with like cigarettes and all that kind of stuff. We want that to all be public.
Right. So it's pretty simple to get into your servers and stuff like that. You're pretty open, at least for initially, for letting people in. And then if they behave accordingly and as expected, then they get to hang out, right?
Of course we have some moderation, yeah, but we do try to make it so that people are able to talk freely. I mean, we have we do have a light rule around people that just want to like debate constantly and just have like an argument. Like we've had some socialist people that go here and have tried to just like have a debate 24/7. We don't really we're not really for that, but we do want it to be generally open and open to anyone to join and look at us and check us out.
Okay. Now, I would love to encourage people to visit your guys' site. It's projectliberal.org. You can learn more about the coalition, and Is that where they can find information for the Discord server as well?
Yes, the Discord server
Okay.
is public.
Okay. I definitely say any listeners that kind of want to learn more information about Project Liberal, head out to the website, hit up the Discord server, ask your questions, try and just kind of figure out what they're all about, see if they're for you. Now, I want to thank you again, Tommy, for coming on the show. And again, to our listeners, it's always healthy to ask questions, dig deep, and keep each other accountable, because that's what liberty's all about. Now, before we go, I want to bring up someone who represents the fight for liberty against government outreach, and that is Ross Ulbricht. He's serving multiple life sentences for creating a website, No Violence, Just a Website. And I'm calling on President Biden. It's time to do the right thing. Pardon Ross Ulbricht. Your timer's ticking. And we're also here to thank our sponsors, Libertarian Mutual Aid, Libertarian Party Radical Caucus, and the Libertarian Medical Freedom Caucus. They're fighting for liberty every day, and we're proud to have them with us. Again, thank you, Tommy, so much for coming on. Really appreciate you spending the time with me and answering all my questions. I know some of them were pretty tough. And again, it's a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here.
Of course, remember, building a principled coalition isn't easy, but if it's done right, it can change everything. Stay informed, stay principled, and don't settle for compromise without accountability. This is Unscripted Liberty signing off, and see you next time. As always, we close with two songs. One is Silk Road by Tatiana Moroz. The other is Free Ross by Jordan Page. And don't forget to check out lpmedfreedomcaucus.com/free Ross to see the countdown until Donald Trump is supposed to pardon Ross. And there is a survey to figure out which libertarian should be in Trump's cabinet.
A man who did the unspoken. He looked for freedom from the violence. No one is perfect when there's new ground broken. A mess is made and someone gets blamed. He had a dream of harmony as you wish to live out your own. Cannot stand for this, cannot have you fall along the Silk Road. This ain't the movies, there's a war in the streets. The innocent are in jail. We pray for justice and we wanna be free. Hope the truth will prevail. He had a dream of harmony as you wish to live out your own. We cannot stand for this, cannot have you fall along the Silk Road. Don't be afraid. We have a voice and this is it. Let the light show the way.
On day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
Is there anywhere on earth where a man can still be free? Will he bear the weight alone, or will he have to bend the knee? Is there no one in this land who grows tired of the game, where the wicked gather stones and build up prisons in our name? There's a story that you've heard before. It's been told inside a cage. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Free Ross. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Free Ross. An honest and philosopher, embattled by the steel of a cell designed to force all men to kneel. But he's patient and determined in his endless duel with time, in a sentence unbefitting of his crime. Will you bend your ear to listen? Will you turn your face to see the injustice staring back at you and me? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Free Ross. He stands in the presence, looking back, he sees the boy he was is gone, and there's no pretending, living day to day in death he carries on. Whoa. There's a fire inside that burns in you and me, and the truth denied is what will set him free. And the years go by like strangers in a dream, and the reasons why are more than what they seem. I'm awake tonight, and his spirit spoke to me. I can't be polite, said Ross Ulbricht.